Welcome to Ukraine, with your host, Pastor Bert.
Beloved, greetings! In the last few episodes, we have presented hard evidence that Vladimir Putin has reduced mental capacity, that suffers from alcohol dementia, a form of Alzheimer's. Dementia is not reversible, and his mental capacity will only continue to deteriorate till he eventually died. Because this disease produces false memories, confabulation, this is a security threat to Russia. The Russian Constitution and law provides for the retiring of its president for health reasons, especially if the health reasons, as in this case, creates a security threat to Russia. Today, we're going to continue to present evidence of Putin's alcohol dementia, but also then to discuss other matters requiring Putin's replacement as well. You see, this audience requires variety. However, in the future episodes, we will return to presenting evidence of Putin's alcohol dementia because, indeed, there is a mountain of evidence yet to be considered. Liver cancer. Liver failure in its many forms is another common symptom of alcoholism, and consequently alcohol dementia. Putin has had such liver failure as a result of liver cancer. Putin does not discuss his physical limitations or admit to them publicly. However, between 2015 and 2017, Vladimir Putin gave a dozen interviews to Oliver Stone, a journalist, to present a biography of the man in news video. During those interviews, Putin made this personal admission as to his health. Putin admitted that he was a cancer patient, but now cancer was in remission. Cancer is a disease that is hard to overcome. One can be treated and beat the disease into apparent submission only to have it return in later years. When the disease indeed returned, Putin consulted over a dozen cancer specialists and doctors as to the best approach for treatment of the cancer's reactivation. Once again, in April 2022, Putin went on chemotherapy, including steroids for advanced liver cancer. This chemotherapy took its toll on Putin. His face became and remains bloated. Like alcohol dementia, which he was already suffering, steroid treatment caused mental confabulations, mood swings, the inability to think clearly or make rational decisions. A foot and Putin's hand developed tremors, in this case, symptomatic of Parkinson's disease, but in this case, no. A true characteristic of Putin's alcohol dementia. The point is, liver cancer does not occur without reason. In Putin's case, the reason for Putin's liver cancer was Putin's alcoholism. Putin's liver cancer, once again in remission now. Putin's liver cancer thus is physical evidence Putin's alcoholism. Concerning the Russian Constitution. The purpose of a country's constitution is to establish supreme laws of the land, the fundamental law of the land. Let us consider Article 77, Section 3, which states this: the person holding the highest office of the constituent entity of the Russian Federation, head of the highest executive state authority in a constituent entity of the Russian Federation, in order established by federal law, shall be forbidden. Forbidden from what? From opening and having bank account deposits, keeping cash assets and valuables, foreign banks situated outside territory of the Russian Federation. Nothing comes into being in a vacuum. These terms, forbidding the president not to have foreign bank accounts, reflects an absolute fear that Russian president will come to power, steal the wealth of the country, and leave the country as a thief in the night. Vladimir Putin is indeed that thief in the night, that enemy of Russia, and the enemy of all Russian people. Vladimir Putin came to the office of Russian president financially a poor man. Yet today, Vladimir Putin is recognized as the richest man on the planet. Really? How is that possible when the Russian president has only a salary of 10,000 US dollars a month equivalent, whereby constitutional law, President Putin is even forbidden to have a foreign bank account? How did Vladimir Putin and those working for him exploit the opportunity of being president of Russia to become the richest man on the planet? And moreover, from what source did Vladimir Putin gain this great wealth? The proof of Putin's evil is in the Moscow Times concerning the purchase of 1 million bottles of champagne for his own personal agenda of stealing for himself the wealth of all Russia. PPP is discussed in the Moscow Times article, column 1. The last paragraph, a reference to the PPP is made, which reads as follows, quote, "The Production Supply Enterprise, or PPP, which is run by the presidential administration, Putin, and is in charge of equipping government agencies, every one of them in Russia, with everything they need to run smoothly according to its website, had more than 1 million bottles of champagne delivered in the first 6 months of this year, prior to July 2014. Here is the PPP's website's About page. I've streamlined the page and moved things around so as to clearly present some very grave issue to the Russian people. I ask this question: where have you been? A country deserves the government it elects and that it subsequently gets. How could you bring this upon yourself? The issues are so grave, so glaring, I'm embarrassed even to present them to you. Dishonest people present what they are doing, the intent to confuse. And this page, in my opinion, was written with the senseless, bureaucratic language, the purpose of this website, and what it is accomplishing. This page lacks good faith to the point of criminality. We will begin. First, I'm going to underline the important words on this page that I will discuss. The information this page attempts to hide presents is as follows. This enterprise's purpose is to support activities and services for the needs its customers, the federal government, business organizations, and institutions, cities and towns, subordinate to the President of the Russian Federation, that's Putin. The PPP creates and brings into being commercial contracts between its customers and businesses, both Russian and those outside Russia? Yeah. Folks, this is what the PPP does. Consider them then that the PPP, as if it were a huge private law firm owned by the federal government, administering a monopoly of business rules for non-government businesses, foreign and domestic, to conduct commercial business with any government within Russia, federal or municipal. I have many objections to the current constitution of the PPP that I wish to share with you now. I will now present a series of text blocks that should highlight the essential problems with the PPP. Let us be absolutely clear about the PPP. What is the PPP's function? For any part of Russian government, federal, city, or town, to contract and buy any service, item, or property requires a contract written and approved by the PPP for all government. This might as well be being done by the president himself. For any services or products required by the cities or towns. For the monopoly, then, how many customers does the PP serve yearly? 186,776 customers, composed of every city and town in Russia, including the federal government as well. This is a huge customer base, which by law is required to work with the PPP. Okay, these are the PPP's customers. As this super huge private law firm, what is PPP's rate for doing work for all of these customers? PPP hides this rate within this website. However, I found that from a 2012 document stored on the website. The language revealing the rate is quite stilted and archaic, because clearly whoever wrote this document did not want anyone to understand how significant the rate is. The disclosure of the rate reads as follows cryptically. Quote, on approval of the rules for the formation of a plan for the procurement of and requirements for the form of such a plan is 39.75%. For example, if any city wants to purchase $1,000 in goods, with the PP, the actual price for those $1,000 in goods would be $1,390, quite a rate hike. That $397.50 is for a presidential fee for approving the purchase for the town. In any country other than Russia, PPP has another meaning, an economic meaning, which stands for purchase power parity, often mentioned in conjunction with a country's GDP, gross domestic product. PPPs are the rates of currency conversion that equalize the purchasing power of different currencies by eliminating the differences in price levels between countries, essentially to the US dollar. In economic journals outside Russia, the PPP rate to sell $1,000 in goods or services is generally represented by the PPP cost of $1,500 for the same goods in Russia. As you can see, that's quite a markup. This is the PPP's 39.75 rate. Reflects most of the additional costs comparatively acquiring goods and services in Russia as compared to the West. There are various serious problems of the Russian current distorted implementation of PPP. The PPP is authorized to conduct and approve of trade with all organizations, foreign and domestic, including the foreign banks, and to that end, making deposits to all foreign banks. Who's doing this, really? It's the president of the country. Since the PPP directly reports and is controlled by the president of Russia, this enables the president of Russia to send money to foreign bank accounts in direct contradiction to the Russian Constitution. The dangers of an unregulated PPP gives the president of Russia the ability to fund and manufacture foreign wars. For example, Putin has had designs on taking over Ukraine and other countries for decades. Putin financed Russian Revolution in Ukraine to create a breakaway government from Ukraine's central government, Donbass and Lucerne. Putin got the money from where? Putin got the money from PPP's funds. Putin did the same in Georgia and in other countries. Under international law, these are crimes against humanity which were funded by PPP laundered money, which Putin used as a slush fund, dark money, to bring war and revolution to neighboring countries. Under Russian law, funding such wars are illegal, and seeking the overthrow of foreign governments using money not appropriated by the Duma are criminal acts as well. Thus, PPP money has been used for years to fund dark projects, illegal Russian government activity among wars. Running the PP costs money, the salaries of many attorneys and law clerks. But once those administrative fees are easily paid for, the PPP's net profits are incredibly profitable and insured because the business is legally a monopoly, and all Russian governments, like it or not, are thus required to use and pay for its service based on this 39.75% service rate, likewise set by law. How those net profits are determined by the president. In pre-revolutionary days, this money would be characterized as Tsar money, the money the government spends as it wills. Russia is not under the Tsars, but is instead a constitutional democracy, not a dictatorship. As it stands now, Russia's PPP is a criminal organization, much like La Cosa Nostra, the Mafia, the International Drug Cartel, ISIS, or any terrorist organization. Those at the top of PPP are all criminals, and they act accordingly. Using those same PPP funds explains how then Putin himself today is recognized as the wealthiest human on the planet. Is PPP the only way Putin has been funded? No, only the first in this series to be documented. Putin has at least 50 Russian income streams delivering to him money monthly outside of Russia. So as evidence goes, this is just a beginning, not an ending. Once again, we have run out of time. Today you have learned in terms of generality how just one Russian income stream, Russia's PPP, has been illegally building Vladimir Putin's personal wealth outside of Russia for decade, and its application to other forms of illegal funding. Sorry, but Putin is a criminal, not merely against the West or humanity in general, but specifically against Russia. Putin has been stealing money from every Russian, the entire country, for 2 decades. The world thinks Vladimir Putin's wealth is actually about 200 billion US dollars. Once you find out from these reports you are seeing here about all the other illegal income streams Putin has been using to financially rape all of Russia for the last 20 years, you likely will realize that a more accurate forecast of Putin's private wealth that he has stolen from all of the Russian people is more like 2 trillion US dollars and growing. Vladimir Putin is simply not a friend or a patriot of Russia, but rather Russia's enemy. Don't miss any of the episodes that follow. If you are new to this channel, do yourself a favor and go to our YouTube channel, Welcome to Ukraine, and find out what the whole picture is, and view all the episodes, starting with Vladimir Putin, the Wizard of Oz. No! There is so much you can learn, but moreover, you need to know exactly how Vladimir Putin is a threat to all human life on this planet. If Vladimir Putin does not win in Ukraine, Putin's insane intent is to kill all of us. And he has the capacity to achieve that murderous goal. Friends, thank you for visiting Welcome to Ukraine, this series, How to Stop Putin and His Nuclear War. Putin's like a puzzle. You can't begin to understand what Putin is doing unless you lay down and examine every piece of the puzzle, one piece at a time. Do this enough, and you will not only empower yourself, but all of humanity by learning of the threat and the risk to all human life. How to defeat Putin and to stop its nuclear war to save all our lives. Be sure and come back tomorrow for the next installment, for the next step also in solving this hidden puzzle. Because this issue is literally life and death for our species. Lives are at stake. Whose? Well, all of ours as well as yours. We must stand against this extinction of all mankind. We must not go quietly into the night. We must bring awareness to as many of our kind to encourage more opposition to Putin's nuclear war. Please help us to help you. Please visit us also on our parent site, Free Ukraine Gives. Remember, beloved, God loves you, so do I. Until the next time, this is your host, Pastor Bert, saying goodbye, friends.